Welcome to the Arclight Battery, your power source for all things Warcraft Rumble related. And in today's video, we have the Arclight Rumblings podcast. Now, you may notice that Blue Max is not here with me today. He's having some scheduling conflicts, but it's kind of my fault. But he'll be on next week. Today, we have Goragroth. Many of you might not know who Goragroth is. Gora, why don't you tell him who you are?
Hey everyone, how's it going? I'm a long-time Warcraft Rumble player from day one beta. I'm in Australia, so I was lucky enough to get in on the day one beta access when they did this very small release to players. Been playing since then, pretty much all up until release. Played a bit at release and then kind of dropped off for a number of reasons and design choices in the game. But I thoroughly enjoyed my time in beta.
Well, awesome. I know that some people might know you from the Arclight Insights podcast. I don't believe that's even on YouTube anymore, but you and a couple other people from the old guild, Prisoners of War, we're doing a podcast every week. So
Yes.
pretty cool.
Yeah, we started that podcast. Originally, it was just a voice podcast. Probably 4, 5 months, 6 months since the beta released, I think. And we did that all the way up to nearly to release.
Yeah. And I believe out of that original crew, I think you're the only one who's still playing Warcraft Rumble. Is that correct? I think that's
Yeah,
right.
I think so. Yeah, out of the podcast crew, yeah.
Well, I mean,
apart from you as well, we got you in later on to fill
Yeah.
out some of the other guys dropping off.
Yep, there's a lot of turnover in beta when there wasn't a whole lot to do, and I feel like maybe we're experiencing that now. Gora, have you been playing the game very much? Have you been enjoying it? How's your experience been with it post beta?
Mixed is the word that I'd use here.
Okay.
I understand the changes they've made and where they're coming from in regards to monetization, but I don't like it. I think the beta monetization was way better, where it was a weekly gold cap that you could buy, and it was actually quite low. Now you can just buy your way to endgame.
Yeah, I think you could spend like what, $30 in gold a week or something silly, like something really small.
Yeah, so for most people, for whales, that's nothing. For your probably 10% of players that spend a little bit every week, that's probably on the slightly higher side, maybe. And then your free-to-play players would not feel like they're being eaten by whales.
Yeah, that's really funny that in beta $30 was about the cap that you could spend, and now, I don't know if you've been playing recently, but there's a bundle they introduced every week.
Oh, yeah.
The $30 that's XP tomes and gold. Now, if you're not buying that, you're falling behind, and that's so bad.
Yeah, the amount of deals, there's currently 3 deals in the store in my game at the moment, and so they're roughly going from Australian to USD. It would be about 15, 35, and 7.
That's crazy.
And I'm guessing if you buy those bundles, new ones would pop up anyway.
Yeah, they've got this thing where they're doing small bundles every day, like $1 to the $4
yeah,
range.
I've seen them.
And then they've got some every week, and it's a lot. And for someone who enjoys the game like I do, I started off not spending a lot, and I'm still not spending a ton, but it does feel like if I'm not at least keeping up with the XP tomes in the shop, then I am falling behind. So let's look at my shop real quick. I have the Bingle's Supplies, which is a leader XP tome, some gold, and some leader stars. I'm not buying that because that's just not super great. There's the PvP rations for Horde, which is some small gold, some stars, and 3 XP tomes. And this feels bad not buying for me because I want to keep up. I want to play with everybody at the top end, but I just can't justify spending that much money. We've got the end of season 3 goods, which once again is another leader tome, common mini, gold. That's just like I can't buy everything, so I'm trying to pick and choose what I want, and it just doesn't feel good to me. I don't know. It's rough feeling like you're behind, and I spend money, so I can imagine what people who don't spend money feel like. Um, it's
Oh
rough
yeah,
out
for
here.
sure.
It's rough out here for free to play.
Yeah, I was. No, it was like a pipe dream. Obviously, this complete fantasy pipe dream. But like Final Fantasy 14. A lot of people love that, and it's not very monetized. But then there's other games that that company makes that are completely microtransaction riddled. But you have different games to suit your different audiences, and so if you don't like paying money every second day for a pack, you can go play this game that they make. But if you do like spending money every day and you've got that cash surplus, from like a really well-paying job and not many commitments, and that's your spending money, that's your discretion and that's what makes you happy, then you can go to another game and spend it in that. And I was really hoping that a little bit of old Blizzard would show through here and they would make Warcraft Rumble like not very monetized and use it as like a look, old Blizzard's back, look what we can do, kind of thing. But obviously the shareholders need their money and profits driven up, so here we are.
And I think
it's just a shame that they couldn't make like 2 games and make one for the fans and then one to make the money.
Yeah. I feel like they really pulled the rug out from under beta players when all throughout beta we had that cap of what you can buy in the store. And then soft launch is coming around and boom, we have all of these bundles, no cap on gold. We've got new gold packs. You can buy $100 worth of gold at a time. I feel like we all knew it was a mobile game, and we all kind of knew that it was going to be monetized in the back of our minds, but just from what they had shown us, we were really optimistic, and then it just kind of flipped. So, it's unfortunate, but I guess that's the way of mobile games.
It doesn't have to be, though, that's the thing. Like, I find mobile games to play on my mobile when I'm traveling, or away from home on holidays. I go to Steam and then find a game that's on Steam they've also ported to mobile, and I find that's the best way to get a decent game that's not like completely pay to win.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I say that's the way of mobile games, but it doesn't have to be the way of mobile games. And there are so many games that are monetized and monetized well that are not pay for power. Like, this is like the most common example, probably the first one that everyone will think of when they think of this, but League of Legends. You don't buy anything that increases your power, you just buy skins. I know this game is a little difficult, just because of how fast-paced the game is. As far as PvP goes, you want to be able to identify minis when they're played by glancing at them. You don't want to, like, see an Emperor Thaurissan with a skin and be like, what is that mini? It should be apparent what it is, but you could still make skins for the game and monetize the game that way. You can make kobold skins, you can make tower skins, you can make cool emotes, you can make the miniature skins, you could do something like TFT does, where you buy a skin for your map, and it changes that on your end, but it doesn't do anything for your opponent. There were just so many ways you could monetize this without shoving power at people and like pay for progression and pay to be better at the game, but they just chose to go full on with this. There is like no cosmetic option to buy, which is kind of unfortunate.
Yeah, and that leads to pay for power leads into the PvP issue as well. So in beta, it was levels 1 to 7. Now
Hmm.
it's levels 1 to 10 in the full release.
Yep.
And then for a number of months to help with testing of like balancing and stuff, they capped the PvP at level 1. And that was the most fun PvP experience I've ever had, like on a mobile game.
Yeah.
It was just because if the enemy played harpies and you played chain lightning, your chain lightning was going to kill those harpies. But now those harpies could be like a couple of levels higher than your chain lightning in PvP full release, and all of a sudden your chain lightning doesn't kill those harpies and they go and mine 6 gold.
Yep.
You know,
That's a huge one for me too. Like I have high level stuff. I'm spending money in the game. I enjoy it. And the other day I saw my opponent play harpies and I was like, oh yeah, I know this interaction. I've got chain lightning in my deck, and I went and played chain lightning on the harpies and they didn't die. And I was like, oh, his harpies are level 10. Okay, cool. Um, and
yes.
it's
So all their hard work and balancing the game just poof, out the window in
yeah,
PvP,
yep, absolutely, and
which
it's
is obviously incentivized and designed to make you spend money. But the amount of money you have to spend to get your minis to level 10 in level 10 in PvP is insane. It's like you're looking at thousands and thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars, especially
yeah.
for anyone starting now.
Oh, absolutely. Trying to catch up in this game would be an absolute nightmare. You can't. I think that's one of the biggest problems the game has at the moment is you can't really start new and want to play PvP. It doesn't really work like that. You can play PvE all you want and probably have a really good time not spending any money. But as soon as you want the PvP, you're gonna run into like level 10 people and have a really bad time. Like today, my
Yeah,
Drakasath is pretty low. It's at 3,000. Well, it was at 3,000 something honor, and I want to push up my Drakasath because I want to play him. But that requires me to actually play him, and all of the games I've played today, from 3,000 to 4,000 honor, were against level 6 through 7 players, and I have a level 10 base, and most of my, well, not most of my minis, but most of the minis I'm playing are level 10. And it's just like, this is, first of all, it's not fun for me to have that experience, and I'm almost positive it's not fun for them. Like, you don't want to be level 6 playing someone that's 4 levels higher than you. That's awful. And the only way to try and catch up is to buy the XP tomes from the shop every day, and that takes a ton of money. And you're not really ever catching up either, because all of the whales at the top end, they're also buying those XP tomes. So it's like, there's not any good catch-up mechanic. So if you haven't started now, you're just kind of, well, you're kind of just shit out of luck.
yeah. Feels like they need to add maybe some kind of XP boost in for
Yeah.
newer players. Just at least boost them to like level 6 in PvP.
Yeah. And
Um,
it's cool because they do this thing in PvP where they have level cap. So like, I think it's like up to 2,000 honor, the cap is 3, and then up to 3,000 honor, the cap is 5. But once you get to that 3,000 honor mark, there's no other step. It's from level 5 to level 10, and that's just, it's too much, too quick. I think if they had a couple more floors in, the game would be a little better.
yeah, for sure. And the PvP reward track, they're pretty lackluster. The only thing you really want to get to from like is I think the 10,000 mark to get your stars for the new like leader or mini that they've introduced in the season.
Mm-hmm.
But apart from that, the next great reward is obviously the 20,000 for the
The
legendary core,
Yeah.
which I
There's
think maybe how many people would you estimate get that core every season? Like 50,
Well, this
if
season
that.
there are more because of the changes they made. However, the last couple seasons have been pretty bad. It's been like, I think season 1 there was 2 or 3 people that got it. Season 2 there was 2 or 3 more, and then I think season 3 there were 5 potentially. It is almost unreachable, but they did change it, so there are quite a few of us that have it now. But my biggest issue with this, I think, is that part of their main selling point in their promotional videos for a new season is this emote that you get at 16,000 honor. And if you don't have level 9 minis, well, mostly 9, you can get it with some 8s, I feel like. It's just a very huge grind to get there, and it's supposed to be this main selling point that I feel like most players should be able to achieve if they try hard enough, but that's not the case. And we're also seeing this giant drop-off of players. So this is what's happening. You have players that have decent level 8 teams, and they get past 3k, and they're pushing for this emote. So you have all these players in like the Platinum 3 to the Mithril Calcutron range, which is like 15k. And then once players get their emote, if they get that far, they stop playing because they don't see any point of pushing past the emote. They got what they want. They know they can't get the 20k for the Legendary Core. They don't have the levels on their minis. And so there's not really anybody in this area here. But then you have the players that do have level 9 and 10 minis, and they do want to get 20k. And so you've got all of these whales around the 18 to 20k range that are playing with nobody to play that's really close. And so they queue into these people in Dark Iron and the Mithril Calcutron range, and it's not necessarily fun for the top-end players to play the people trying to get their emote, and it feels just kind of bad overall. So
Yeah, and then the top few players getting the Legendary Core can then use that core to get another level on their minis.
yeah.
Which would potentially take them from level 9 to 10 in PvP, so they just get stronger and stronger.
Yeah, and I don't know, I don't think this is confirmed, I don't think we know this. However, we do know that raids, according to BlizzCon, will be giving something called a Platinum slot, which is basically just like how you upgrade your slots in the dungeon from bronze, silver to gold. You'll just give it a bonus level, which potentially means that if you have a level 30 mini in a Platinum slot, you can have a level 11 mini in PvP. That's going to be really hard to achieve, but there will definitely be whales that have level 10 minis, and then once they get Platinum slots, we'll have level 11 minis, making the gap even wider.
Yeah, and then every level is 10% health damage, so the rift keeps getting bigger.
Yeah, exactly. And it's... At first, when I heard that, I was like, oh, this is really cool. This is their catch-up mechanic. If players can get Platinum slots and then go into like raids and grab those, they can catch up their minis, they can get another level on their minis, potentially get level 9, maybe even level 10 in PvP. That's great for catching up to the whales. However, if the Platinum slots give level 11 minis, because it is your level of your mini divided by 3 rounded up, so level 31 will give you a level 11 mini, if that's how it's going to work. Which is not really a catch-up mechanic.
Yeah, and I wish they'd bring back the level 1 cap game mode in some form for PvP, and then add in duels as well, so you could test yourself against other players.
Mm-hmm. I do believe they're having custom matches at some point. I think they said that at BlizzCon, but there needs to be... I mean, there are a lot of issues with this game. I don't think we can get into all of them in this podcast, but...
And they will be here all day.
Yeah. But, yeah, they need to have some form of fun, balanced PvP content, because PvP content right now is very far from balanced, and it's so hard to like look at PvP objectively sometimes, because it's almost like they're shooting themselves in the foot by not balancing it. Because like for me, I have a good variety of level 9 minis, some level 10 minis. However, I have all these units that are like level 8. I think I have some that may potentially be level 7. Not quite sure, but definitely some that are level 8. And it's like, they're the same minis that everybody has at that level, unless you're just a Giga Whale, because they're all the units like, I don't know, Warsong Grunts or Ogre Mage or Flame Waker that the community is like, yeah, these aren't very good. So it's hard to even want to play them in PvP when they're 2 levels below everything else anyway. And so it makes it hard to test builds, to know what's actually good, what's actually balanced, because everyone's playing the same thing anyway. No one has the XP to play everything all the time. So it's like, there could be new things that are really good or things that need balanced, but nobody knows because no one's even playing those units. And so not only is it creating that issue where potentially they're not as balanced as they could be, and it may create an issue in the future, but it's also creating an issue where we keep seeing things like chicken sacrifice, chickens not being able to hit Onyxia. There was an issue with Molten Giant a couple patches ago that I forget, that we don't know about until someone randomly discovers it 4, 5, 6 months down the road, because no one is playing with that many, so no one knows it's even bugged. No one's tested it. So we keep running into these little issues with minis that just like randomly pop up. So I don't know. I just wish it was balanced, I guess, is that point to the long ramble.
And then yeah, like there's no, the level 1 PvP cap also provided a lot of just pure fun. Like there was no rewards, there was like no incentive to play it apart from it just being fun. And you could, being level 1 capped, there was no restriction on switching out your minis, because if you say, oh, I want to try Earth Elemental instead of Quillbore in PvP, and your Quillbore's level 10 and your Earth Elemental's like 7 or 8, you can't compare that, because the Earth Elemental is objectively like down 20 or 30% of their HP and damage.
Yeah. Yep.
And so from a balance perspective, you can't just go in and test anything either.
Yeah, exactly. And that's an issue I ran into during the start of this season. I really wanted to play Earth Elemental and Emperor Thaurissan, but my Earth Elemental was level 8, my Quillbore was level 10. There was no point in playing it. So, literally the exact same scenario.
How many different builds are we missing out on because of this?
Yeah. Yep, exactly my point. There are probably things that people have never tried because they just don't have the levels on it. So.
And then if you do want to do something like non-meta and say use Molten Giant for whatever reason in PvP, it's like that's months and months of grinding XP just to pump into one mini on the off chance that they will work in a build that you've theorized.
Yeah. Like, would I rather take a very large gamble and invest all of this time, resource, and money into this unit that everyone says is bad, but I think is good? Or would I rather just put the time, the money, the resources into the units that are supposed to be good, that everyone is playing?
Yeah, the current known strategy and meta.
Yeah.
Yeah. 99% of people will go for the safe option.
Yeah, absolutely. This spell, Deep Breath, this is another issue
here we go.
I would like to talk about. So this whole debacle has been crazy. So I don't know if you followed it, but Onyxia, Onyxia is level 30 encounter. You know that. There was an issue where you could stack whelp eggs on the map, and Onyxia would stop spawning units other than like her the ones that she spawns in the encounter. So like Earth Elemental, the whelp eggs on the sides, and the Guardians. But basically you could clog up the map so she would stop like summoning things. Like the Grunts, the Gargoyles, the Necromancers, all that stuff. She doesn't play them anymore. This has been weird because there were a good number of players that took advantage of that and got the spell, which honestly, I'm all for. But now they've changed that to where it doesn't work. Once again, all for that. I think they should fix a bug in an encounter. And now it's really difficult for players. Players that killed it previously aren't even able to kill it again. Certain people have been trying and not succeeding. And it's kind of silly. Now, the only reason I think this is silly is because I don't think Onyxia should have existed in this state to begin with. I think she should have had a level 20 encounter, that was the same fight, just level 20, and it rewarded Deep Breath. And then I think there should have been a level 30 encounter that rewarded either a large amount of gold or a cosmetic, a cool border, a cool icon, something to incentivize doing it. But I don't think that you should lock a spell behind a level 30 encounter that 90, probably more than 90% of your player base won't get, and the spell is probably the best spell in PvP. It's kind of silly, and I think they're getting ready to do that with raids again, because Ragnaros is supposed to be a reward for beating Ragnaros in the raid, and Ragnaros is a level 29 encounter that I believe is supposed to be harder than Onyxia. So I don't like that they're locking down specific units behind these big walls.
And they keep buffing Onyxia too, on top of everything else, or fixing her bugs.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
So, like, you did that video a while ago with the Sneed Onyxia kill before they introduced the cap onto minis gaining levels.
Yep.
Because it was infinite, or no, it was to like level 99, I believe.
Yeah.
And now they've capped it to plus 10. So if you have a level 20 mini, you can go up to level 30, and that's it. Where your kill, you're getting Sneed to like level 45 or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
Walking up to Onyxia and just like, you know, massacre her. Like, just cutting her legs off in front of her, and there's nothing she could do, really.
Yeah.
And it's like, then that got hot fixed, like, quickly.
Yeah. And
like, I've never seen them move so fast to fix something.
I know, they're always so slow, and then when I publish a video about having a level 46 Sneed killing Onyxia, like, I did Onyxia in, I think it was under 3 minutes. Like, and then they fix it immediately. It's like, okay, maybe Sneed died for the sins of killing Onyxia too fast, but I don't know. It's unfortunate.
And then, like, originally when so I'm trying to use the same build that I killed Onyxia in beta with, which is not optimal, but it's not bad either. And I got her to what? So there's 3 phases at 33% each health on her, and I got to phase 3, and she would be so 33%, about 15% health left. That's my best attempt, like a couple months ago before all the buffs started kicking in. And this was out without using the egg exploit too, as far as I know.
Yeah.
Because I think everything was still spawning in from.
Yeah.
And then since then, like, if I go try to do it now, I'm barely able to get into phase 2.
Ooh. Yeah.
With minis that have leveled up at 1 level across the board for my team, at least, since then.
Yeah. That's rough. They
and
do keep
it's,
buffing it. And I realize
like
that... Go ahead, sorry.
The gold buff that they did was the most stupid thing I've ever heard of.
Yeah. It's already pretty difficult. I don't know why they have to keep buffing it, especially when it's locking a spell behind it. Like, even if it's not the most difficult thing in the world, it shouldn't be, really. Because there's a spell behind it that everyone should have. You shouldn't lock a mini behind something, especially when the mini is that good. But it is the hardest thing in the world. They keep buffing it. They keep changing it. And it's just like, at some point, you have to make it accessible to people. Because that's the problem right now, I feel like, is that there's not enough accessible things to do in the game. Like, once you... Like, there are so many walls in the Heroic campaign, and you kind of have to spend money, I feel like, to get past a couple of them. And then once you finish the Heroic campaign, Onyxia is the next wall, but there's not really a good way to grind XP to be able to achieve that, especially once you're done with the Heroic campaign. And then PvP is just swipe your credit card, get more levels. There needs to be repeatable content that is rewarding, that is fun to do. Arclight surges are not fun to do. I don't really think they reward very much, to be honest. The PvP track doesn't reset below 9k, rather.
9,000.
Which is
that's
silly.
ridiculous. Like, it's you're free-to-play, low-level new players are already struggling, and then you're just beating them with a stick when they're already down.
Yeah.
By not resetting the PvP rewards under 9k. It's like, it's not much. It's like a couple of, 1,000 gold
Mm-hmm.
and like some XP times.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's exactly what they need to feel better and to maybe be able to do the next piece of content, that next heroic zone, you know,
Mm-hmm.
to get into phase 2 on Onyxia.
Yeah. Oh man, I have pitched lots of ideas. I have communicated how the community feels to the devs. Hopefully they are listening. I have my fingers crossed. We'll have to wait and see what they actually do about it and implement. But yeah, it's kind of rough out here right now. But yeah, my fear is that when they release raids, if they're exactly what they say they're going to be, which is starting at 26, 27, 28, and 29 for the 4 different wings, I think we're going to see a large drop in players, more so than we're already seeing. I mean, the guild, Diablo Gaming, is absorbing people every day from guilds that are breaking, and it's not like random small guilds that they just don't want to be a part of it anymore and they want to become part of something bigger. They are guilds that we were tracking on our PvP leaderboard that are no longer there because they've been disbanded because people are just not playing anymore. It's kind of unfortunate. And I think if they introduce raids that alienate the low-level player base because they won't be able to do them at 26, I think we're really going to see people stop playing.
Yeah, they need to introduce raids at a lower level and just tune down the rewards, but at least let players get in, clear them, get something, and have the experience more than anything else. Because raids sound really fun because they're co-op, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So you literally like, and then even like a way that you could, like, say if you have a friend and you're like, hey, this game's really fun. It's a Warcraft universe. You know, like remember playing Warcraft like 2 back when we were kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like, oh cool, I'll come check it out. Give that long-term player a way to play the raid with their new friend and just scale all the long-term players' minis down to their friends' level. And then they can do the raid at level 3 or 5 or 10, you know?
I like that a lot. Yeah.
Like give like and maybe the high level player doesn't get any rewards, but their low level friend that they're playing with does.
Yeah.
And then the high level player can go play at their actual level with somebody else at their level and get their rewards that way. But at least they can, you know, spend some time with their mate and have some fun, you know, in a game together, instead of like going, oh, this game's really cool. You got to grind for 6 months and spend $10,000 to catch up to me so we can play together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I really like that idea. I think that would be awesome. I think that it's so hard to tell what Blizzard is going to do, if they're going to do anything, but I really hope they implement something that helps people play the game and have fun. Because
I've got a question for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before we get further on, with Onyxia, once you kill her the first time and get deep breath, is there any incentive to replay that mission?
There is not. I know in beta they had basically it was like heroic missions where you could kill it with every faction and you would get some gold.
Exactly. So why did they get rid of that?
I could not tell you.
Because
I can't think of a good reason.
That was great because that was so Fieldsy was the first known person to kill Onyxia, I believe, in beta.
Yep.
And then after that, he had nothing to do. And then through his suggestion and everyone else pushing it because it was a great suggestion, is they added in essentially what heroic mode is, but for Onyxia, to go back and kill her with the 4 other factions.
Yeah.
And you got a reward of 750 gold each time you did that too. So I wish they would do that, but make it different. So Onyxia is, say, like you were saying, level 20 or even level 15. And then you get unlocked deep breath, and then Onyxia bumps up to level 20 from 15. And you get, like, say, 5 stars or 3 stars or 10 stars or whatever from Deep Breath and some gold or XP from Onyxia for killing her again. And then that keeps going up until 30. So if you... And that would take, like, say, Deep Breath from unlocking it to blue level, so you get 2 talents for it by the time you kill her again at level 30, like she currently is.
Yeah. It's a solid idea. Can you work for Blizzard? Can you go move and be employed by them?
Yeah. And then, you know, and then that will stop all the players complaining about being dominated by Deep Breath in PvP that don't have it. And then it gives players a new fun fight. Like, Onyxia fight, I think, still is the best, funnest fight currently in the game to do.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe maybe the gold buff that they gave her was a bit over the top and kind of ruined a bit, because it seems like you're already getting swarmed with map minis like the Earth Elementals and then the Dragon Kin guys in Phase 3. And then on top of that, she's able to just like spam out, you know, her minis in her hand as well. And it's just like, it just feels like a unbeatable wall of minis she's throwing in your direction.
Yeah. I know
it feels like what's the surge where you get 300% gold?
Like Dragon's Horde, maybe? Or Overclocked?
Yeah, Overclocked, oh yeah. It feels like Onyxia's got overclocked and you don't.
Yeah. That's so funny. It does feel like that. I know we've talked a lot about what is wrong with the game, but I don't want to like give any false impressions here. I think the game is fun. Like, I enjoy PvP. I enjoy the campaign missions. I enjoy the hard encounters like Onyxia. I don't think Arclight surges are particularly fun, but they're not the worst thing in the world. The problem I have is with the balance and how they're locking things behind walls. That's the only issue I have with it. If PvP was balanced, if the minis, like if Onyxia wasn't a level 30 encounter and had a spell that was the best spell in the game behind it, then the game would be fine. The game would be fun. They could focus on adding like cool little game modes, like more Arclight surges, but like kind of different, like more repeatable, fun things. I think that would be awesome. But as it stands now, it's just not balanced, and it doesn't provide a good player experience, in my opinion.
Not overall, yeah. Like, which build was it? Was a PvP build you put up maybe about 2 months ago. I think it was Sneed. With the map modifiers are on at that time. Don't know if they've changed now. But for the first time since beta, basically, I actually had fun in PvP.
Hell yeah.
It's been long enough now that the ladder has sort of fleshed out with more players around my level, so being level 7, 8, I wasn't versing 9s and 10 whales. There's a bit of a buffer below 10,000 now for that. And yeah, I actually had fun for the first time in a long time in PvP in the game. But then as soon as you get rank up too much more, you start hitting those higher level players and all of a sudden everything falls apart again.
Yeah.
But yeah, like the art style, the gameplay, it's all really good. It's fun, you know. The campaign's good. All the maps are different. All the bosses are different in the campaign. All the heroic modes, like, either turn it up to 11 or 13, and you're thinking, okay, this developer was just being really mean to me here. There's a couple of heroic fights like that. And then you sort of run back into the problem of you want to switch out your minis to counter particular heroic, and that mini is so underleveled, but it's the perfect counter to that map mechanic, and you're stuck either having to use a suboptimal counter that's at the appropriate level or using the correct counter that's underleveled for it. So yeah, that was a bit of a problem. in a few of the heroics until there's a couple of sort of cheesier strats you can do, depending on the leaders that you're using to get through some of the heroic missions. Probably the best example was, where's the Hex boss on the map again?
The Hex boss, in Hinterlands, and it's
Vile
on.
Branch Hex.
Which one are you talking about? Yeah,
The boss that makes your minis turn into chickens.
Oh no, that's Stranglethorn. The right continent all the way at the bottom.
Stranglethorn?
And it's Jindo the Hexer.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah, Jindo the Hexer. In heroic mode, when I was using Drac with the normal sort of army that I used, was completely impossible. So I switched out everything on the deck to cycle minis and execute. I would execute the boss when I had the spare gold. Otherwise, I would play like Griffin Rider, Bat Rider, Quillbore, Defias Bandits, things like that, just to protect my base. And that's how I defeated that boss, because the Hex would activate at like halfway across the map, and your like Drakosaf would be turned into a chicken. So it was just like, okay, I cannot push towards the boss at all. With Drac.
No. I remember you posting early on when we were all pushing heroics, and you kept saying, just cycle and execute. Just play these units and cycle, defend your base, and execute the boss, and you'll kill it. And you did that for I don't know how many bosses.
There's quite a few. The other one, the Ghoul boss, you know how she kills somebody then eats?
Yeah, Ghoulia, yep.
Yep. You just run the cheapest cycle minis, it doesn't matter what they are, just make sure they're 1 gold cost and execute. Cycle to execute, and the boss will die from execute spam before your minis get anywhere on the map. And that big wave that spawns on the right side of the map won't have time to kill your barracks. So that's how I did that fight.
I love it.
The other one that works really well is you also add in Quillbore and Whelpegs and execute with Bloodlust. So you wait for 9 gold, or 8 gold? 8 gold, yeah. You pop eggs, wait for them to break, pop Quillbore to tank the boss. You can also use Earth Elemental Taunt if you're having difficulty with the timing.
Yeah.
And then you just pop execute on top of the boss and your whelps and watch the boss get shredded that way.
Yeah, I pretty much use the same combo on all of my heroics with a little bit of difference. I use the execute with Bloodlust too, but I was using it with Harpies. I would just play Harpies, protect them while they got to the boss, and then distract with the Quillbore and give them Bloodlust, and they would absolutely shred the boss with
the poison talent. Yeah, that's another strategy. You just got to get the Harpies there, though.
Yeah.
Which can be a bit harder on some maps.
Yeah, I remember.
But then, like,
the only heroic that gave me issues that I wasn't able to do this with was Devil Sword Queen. And I actually did what we were talking about earlier, where I played a under-leveled counter. I would just play Bat Rider, which was really good on that map. And it was, I think, like
incredibly
3 or 4 levels below my other minis at the time, but I was like, it's 2 gold, maybe I can cycle to it quickly, maybe I can just defend while I protect Bat Rider a little bit, and it worked wonderfully. So that was the only one that
but then, like, so, yeah, going back to, like, Jindo the Hexer, so Drac, terrible. Murk-Eye, amazingly fun, because you're spawning in, like, all these, like, an army of Murlocs. So even though, like, the boss is hexing half your army, the other half is still getting to it to destroy the boss.
Yeah, and especially with Murk-Eye, I think there's like 3 gold veins and 2 treasure chests on that map, so you're just constantly getting gold too.
And so that was, like, that heroic with old Murk-Eye was actually really fun. But with Drakosaf, it was just like, oh, I completely have to rethink my whole strategy and army comp here. From the ground up. Which I guess in a lot of ways is actually a good thing, because it forces you to change and adapt.
Yeah.
For heroic. So you've already done the fights all once, so you've experienced the base content.
I
I just
agree.
think some of them are a little overtuned.
So I agree, and I don't even know if some of them potentially are overtuned, but I agree that changing up your army and swapping things around for each individual encounter is good and it's fun. However, when the game limits you on the units you can use because of XP without swiping your credit card, it becomes unfun. And I think that's where the game gets lost in translation a lot, especially for people who are progressing through the campaign, because they do have a unit that would be good on this map, but they can't try it because it's 4 or 5 levels below the units that they're currently using. So
Yeah. So like I've completed the heroic campaign with Drac now, all the way through.
nice.
About maybe a month ago, and then I've done Alliance. I can't see Winter Spring at the moment because there's a surge on.
Okay.
Think I've finally got past Devil Saw Queen with Alliance as well. Now that kind of like that was a bit of a absolute chaos fight. Devil Saw
Yeah.
Queen is actually unironically hard
Mm-hmm.
because the tower just gets taken off you, and then all these
Yeah.
little raptors get spawned in around the tower that just got taken. So you got to have like a planned setup to counter that. Like World Eggs work pretty good, or timing it with a new push to walk up, so they're sort of getting to the tower as it gets destroyed.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then you have something to like smack the tower, something to AoE down the or something to tank the raptors, and then something to AoE the raptors down, and then you can take the tower back.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots of good strategies.
But yeah, doing the later levels in heroic with Drac was actually a lot easier to use Drac and a more like a comp that plays to Drac's benefits with his elemental damage bonus aura, and using like non-cycle minis in your deck for the later levels. I got stuck on Ramps in the Gorgia for a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
But I was able to sort of that fight. I think I went back to like semi-cycle deck and execute spam. You're sort of able to execute the mobs before they leave the boss.
Yeah.
And dealing with a 50% health like abomination instead of 100% health abomination is a lot easier.
Yeah. Yeah, especially when you're probably trying to do it under level too, I would guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, funny enough, Blackrock Mountain, I pretty much one or two shot most of the fights until Rendon Drac himself.
Yeah.
And then it was Rendon Drac was just a matter of getting timings down.
Yeah, I had the same exact experience. Plaguelands heroics were difficult for me, and I didn't really want to move on to Blackrock until I finished this. And once I finished this, I killed Omnitron Emperor immediately, like with every family. Vulcan, I tried a couple times, was like, man, this thing's really hard, and then realized I could just Banshee the golems they were sending at me, and it just fell over instantly after that. I was like, okay, it's like the map's main mechanic. The fact that you can just Banshee them is crazy because they're custom golems too. Like they're molten giants, right? But when they die, they split into smaller golems.
Yeah,
and so I didn't really think about Bansheeing them, and then tried it and was like, why does this work? Because you get the golem, and then when it dies, you get the two smaller golems too, and it just makes the fight completely trivial. And then Rend, as long as, but like you said, it's timing. I tried, I think it was like 5 or 6 times before I got the timing down, where you clear the wave that pushes towards you from where Rend is going. So you clear it, play Harpies, and then you can play a Quillboar to distract, and then execute your Harpies, and Rend dies pretty much. So That one was easy once I got the timing, and then same with General Dracasath. That one took me a bit longer, mainly because I didn't have my whelp eggs leveled up, so I had to find some creative ways to get my harpies to the boss, and that one took a little bit of planning. But definitely easier than Plague Lands for sure.
Yeah, General Drac was a bit rough. Like the amount of, I think it was like Corehounds, Fire Alley, Firehammer,
Molten Giant.
all spawned in pretty quick succession on the right-hand side
Yep.
from that first tower.
Yeah, and I had this experience where I think I did it on Horde first, maybe, and I had the strat down. He was playing a Molten Giant left and all of that right, and I was able to Molten Giant the Banshee and then get Harpies in behind him, distract with the Quillbore, execute, and kill him before he did his next AoE and before he spawned the Drake to kill the Harpies. And did that on 2 liters, and I was like, awesome, perfect, I got it down. And then on the other 3 families I had to kill him with, he changed up his strategy and just started playing everything down the left side where I was sending everything, and there was no tower to stop my push. So I was like, okay, this is kind of silly. But
it feels like the AI learns to counter what you play and how you play it.
Yeah, I felt it because I think I messaged Discord. I was like, oh man, I got this easy. I just figured it out. Just did it on 2 liters. Gonna go do it with the other 2, and I'll post my heroic clear later this evening. And then it was like 2 days later, and I still hadn't done it.
Yeah.
Oh man. Well, we're getting pretty long-winded. We're sitting at about 51 minutes right now. I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions, just kind of like off the cuff, to get us out of here. Okay?
All right, let's go.
All right. So, what is one change you would make to the game that would not necessarily bring you back, but you think would improve the game?
Level 1 PvP mode.
Level 1 PvP mode. Okay. What is your favorite?
It doesn't have to have any rewards to it.
Oh, no rewards. Okay, doesn't have to.
It doesn't have to. It would be nice, obviously, too, but it doesn't have to. It's at least it would be something fun to jump in and play, and to test. You can throw in, Baron and then Plague Farmer. Like, who uses Plague Farmer in PvP?
Yeah. Not very
yeah, no one. But he actually does do pretty good damage, and the poison build-up he can bring is also quite good.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah, that's what it would be.
What is your favorite faction?
Blackrock. Drac.
What's your favorite unit?
Drac was my first leader in beta.
Yeah, I remember that. You were playing everything Drac. All Drac all the time.
Yeah.
So, is he your favorite unit then in the game?
Yes. He's my favorite unit from a fun perspective.
Okay. What is your favorite non-leader unit?
This is a hard one. Like, I really like Flamewaker, his design, and he hits really hard. I also like Firehammer.
Yeah.
I think that's a cool, this Fury stacking, and all her 3 talents are really good in their own sort of right, and certain scenarios.
Yeah.
But I don't use them very much. Like, I always just default to Pyro for my ranged AoE. But yeah. I really probably like Flamewake for he's just such a cool mini, I reckon.
Yeah. You bring
and watching that big flame fly out and then the health bar chunks on the enemy, it's always fun.
Yeah. You bring up a good point with Firehammer that I've never actually really noticed before, because I don't use her either that much. All 3 of her talents are very, specifically good in specific places, and it's really cool because not a lot of minis have that. Like, Quillbore is really good because of his unbound nature, his resist, all of his innate things. He's tanky, you can play him anywhere, resistant to magic damage, but his talents aren't super good. He's still really good without any talent, but Flamehammer is very, potentially amazing in different scenarios. So
yeah, my primary reason that I use Firehammer is I keep it leveled up is just for the PvE flying bosses, and you chuck on a 50% damage to flying enemies.
Mm-hmm.
Like Gish is just melts with Firehammer.
Oh, I bet.
Is if you have some way, if you can play Drak, Firehammer, and then Bloodlust, Firehammer,
Ooh,
like
man.
you just watch Gish's health just drop so fast
Kind of want to
as
try
he's
that
making
now.
his way towards your base. So, yeah.
Awesome. Cool. I like those units too. What is your favorite zone?
Ooh, good question. Favorite zone. Probably. I don't know. Just looking around the map. I kind of like Lordaeron because
Yeah.
of the white main fight.
Ah.
It's always fun just to go in and completely sack the left side of the map with Shaman or Tyrians to heal your minis and create like a death ball of 50 minis on one side.
Mm-hmm. I did that with Thalnos because I noticed that potion drop from Griffin doesn't count towards his level 10 cap. So I was just getting
Oh.
I was getting Thalnoses up there and having them kill Whitemane so that Whitemane's dead and the other guy is just rezzing her constantly. And I would stack up Thalnoses with Shamans so they would stay alive, and then I would drop Griffins with potion drop over them just to see how high I could get them.
That's great. That's really good. How high did you get a Thalnos?
I think I only got them to like in the mid 40s, I think. Because at
That's
some
still pretty
point,
good.
yeah, at some point it was getting a little unreliable. Like the hit boxes of things were overlapping, and sometimes the potion drops would go to the Thalnos, and sometimes they would go to a shaman randomly or something like that. And then they would spawn a mini that my minis would respond to and instantly delete, but it would push units around, especially the ground units.
Yeah.
So then like now they're not underneath the Griffin anymore, and it was fun, but it was crazy. It was so fun.
Yeah. I know there's quite a few screenshots that people put up of doing different strategies to stack minis on that white main fight, floating around on Discord and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they're always fun to look at to see what people have chosen how to do it.
Yeah. Well, I believe that is all of the questions I have for you. Gore, it was nice seeing you. Nice talking to you again.
Yeah, thank you, you too.
We'll definitely have you back on the podcast. Hopefully Max will be with us next time. Really excited for raids. I know we haven't really been negative, but we have been critical in this podcast, and I just have my fingers crossed for the future of the game that it gets better. So.
Yeah, the things that are wrong with the game should be like just sort of turning switches on and off or adjusting levels of things.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a fundamental issue of the game itself. Like, the graphics good, the gameplay's good, how you play your minis, the gold income, like gaining the extra gold, is all good.
Yeah.
It is a solid foundation of a game, I believe. I just think they need to make a few changes to make it more accessible to players and a bit more player retention sort of strategies implemented as well.
Yeah, absolutely agree. Well, with that, we are out, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye, guys.
All right, catches.